Stories stir the soul.
Stories reveal.
And stories heal.
In this podcast, we will give you an inside look at someone who's had a life-changing breakthrough.
Real people, real stories with real breakthroughs. As a health and wellness expert and coach, and Todd as a men's mentor,
we've seen firsthand what God can do when it comes to a breakthrough. So lean in, listen well. This could be your biggest breakthrough.
hello and welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough. I'm one of your hosts, Wendy Pett.
I'm the other host, Todd Isberner. And hey, Wendy.
Yes.
What if I told you that I have a past that you didn't know about? Would you want to know now after all the years that we've been married?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, are you trying to tell me something right now?
Nah, just kind of kidding. But I think you do know everything about me. I mean, except for that one thing you probably don't know about.
Wait. What do you mean? What one thing?
Teasing, totally teasing.
Why are you always teasing?
I don't know, because you're just fun to tease. But in all seriousness, we do have a story. We all have a story.
Yes,
and that's what we do here on Your Biggest Breakthrough. We bring guests in who've got a great story to share.
And they've broken through on the other side of these amazing stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sure do. And some stories are not always easy to share.
Yeah.
We're kind of kidding around here in the beginning, but there are those stories that they need to be shared because when they're brought to light, they allow for personal healing and for others to have hope in their situation. And so those stories, they offer the breakthroughs.
So true. And oftentimes very relatable to what we are in need of. And today's guest has a past story that she just started sharing and finally told her husband after 12 years of marriage. And we're going to hear all about that in today's episode.
That's amazing. Yes, today we have Lena Cebula with us. She is a wife and a mother of 3 beautiful children. She is the author of a spiritual autobiography called Miraculous. Lena is a drug addiction and human trafficking survivor. Lena was raped numerous times and had a baby at the age of 14. And that baby died 3 months later from health complications. And you're going to hear all about her story. But today, Lena is a just proud Christian, and she is a social justice advocate. She's a blogger, she's a speaker, and she's the host of the Love&B, as in the letter B, Loved podcast.
I love the title of that, by the way.
Love&BLoved podcast.
Yeah.
Her mission is to encourage, inspire, and to give hope, to share that there is a chance to have love, joy, peace, and wholeness again after everything that you may have seen or even done.
You know what we love about Lena is that she's got this passion to share the good news of God's love and to create awareness about the reality of human sex trafficking and the implications of that.
Yeah, so we want to bring Lena on right now. Welcome to Your Biggest Breakthrough. It's so nice to meet you and to see you.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me. And I love your dynamic. It's so beautiful.
Well, we love your dynamic accent and
Awesome.
and just the beauty of who you are and who God has made you to be. We're so blessed by your willingness to share your story, Lena.
Your bravery and just how courageous you are. And so we're excited. We have no idea how this is totally going to flow because you know why? We're going to let the Holy Spirit do the work here and guide this conversation. But let's start off, first off, with this accent, this beautiful accent. Where are you from originally?
Thank you so much. Like, honestly, I want to say thank you for your kind words. And honestly, I would never have imagined that after 20 years of silence, I would be standing on stage in front of hundreds of people and my story going to be broadcasted all over social media. Because in the past, I was afraid that I'm going to be judged and rejected because I thought it was the story of shame, guilt, and condemnation. But now I know it's story of salvation.
Yes.
And I'm Russian from Ukraine.
Lena, I'm going to stop you for just a moment, though, because what you said, I think, is so relatable to those who are maybe just coming into this new place of getting free from shame and feeling like the people aren't going to understand. And so they look at you and they can be inspired by just your courage and also sort of the way in which God surprised you, like you didn't expect to be in this place. but you somehow you communicated to God, Lord, I'm willing, and look at what's happened as a result. So, all right. So you were born and raised where?
In the Ukraine.
Well, actually, I want to piggyback on that and tell you that, because I don't say that enough, that I actually trust God with my story. I didn't volunteer to share this story. I was so afraid when I got this desire in my heart to write my book. I cried for 3 days. I already been healed, redeemed, forgiven, justified. I have beautiful family. I had a business. I'm part of the church. You know, I loved my life, and I loved the way people perceive me by that persona that I was in Christ. You know what I mean? And now God holding my hand and saying, now we're gonna look back since you were 6 years old, and we're gonna put it in the book. And literally in that vision, I saw the book with the jewelry on it, because God said to me, you are my treasure. You are precious and priceless to me. And
Beautiful.
I saw that banner. I don't know, guys, if you guys see it, with my face on it. And I was so scared that it's going public, something that I hid for so many years. But God said to me, just trust me. Who loves you, they will never reject you, abandon you, and leave you. And since then, it's been 2 years, since little by little, I'm open up, and it's been an amazing experience. Through this book, through looking back from a new perspective, I assume he wants me to share my story to encourage, inspire, and give hope to others to share that free gift of salvation. And yes, it is. But it was, first of all, for me. He healed my past through this process. I reconciled with my family. I reconciled with that little Lena as well, to actually, I don't know, it's took me to another level of faith with God, because I saw his faithfulness to me from beginning to the end. Because up to this point, I thought this was my life before Christ, and it was hell. And then I give my life to Christ, and then this is my life with Christ. Only looking back, I realized, wow, he knit me in my mother's womb.
Yes.
I saw him to be with me through the abuse in my family, through the brothel, when he spoke to me, through all the hell that I went through. He was right there beside me. I just didn't know.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, Lena. That's so beautiful, and the fact that you were courageous enough to put it on paper and to receive the extra level of healing through this process is actually encouraging to someone that might be listening right now that also has a story and is feeling very ashamed of that story, when really that story is only an open door to allow you to heal more and for others to heal through your story. But let's talk about you talked about this little 6-year-old girl. I think we need to start with that 6-year-old little Lena.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was born and raised in Ukraine, and my parents struggle in their marriage. Now I do understand them, because I'm a wife and a mother, and I do understand it's not an easy job. And but they become an alcoholics and lost well-paid jobs. And at our home, the government turned off the electricity and hot water for outstanding bills. And I was hungry all the time. I was literally starving at our home. It was like our home was infested with black mold, cockroaches, and mice. It stunk, and really struggle in poverty, trying to survive. So I was raised in a home full of strangers. They brought drugs and booze, with parents who did nothing to protect me. So I became an easy target for those guys from very young age. I was drugged and raped in the basement of my apartment numerous times. And when I thought things couldn't get any worse, 1 month before my 15th birthday, I woke up with this severe abdominal pain. And I was so scared and confused because the pain was so excruciating. I ended up in the hospital, and they told me that I'm in labor. So I actually didn't know I was pregnant.
Wow.
I didn't know who her father was. Yeah.
I wonder how often that happens, Lena,
I
with
was
young
like
pregnancies.
skinny, starving little
Mhm.
kid. Nobody ever taught me that
Sure.
like gonna be any changes. Plus, by that time, I've already been drinking and doing some drugs as well. So I don't think like I even felt like morning sickness. I just was sick all the time. So it was very hard to differentiate. And plus, I never get no extra weight because there was no
No
food. I
food.
never
Wow.
had belly. I never have anything except on that one morning I woke up and I thought I'm gonna die.
Wow.
Wow.
And you were
Wow.
15, is that right?
14.
I was like 15 in a month.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
Wow.
So,
And so it was a little girl, right?
yes, and
Yeah.
I was so shocked that the delivery was intense but quick, and she was alive. She was wiggling and making noises, but the doctor, I knew my lifestyle will affect her, but the shame, guilt, and condemnation that I didn't know she was there was really broke my heart. It broke my heart because I blame myself for everything. And then she passed away because she couldn't feed. But I actually have to leave her in the hospital. But before that, I need to refuse. I had to refuse my parental rights and give her my name and last name. And that was the most devastating because I didn't want to leave her. And I felt I ended up being just like my mother, neglectful. And I felt like I reject that little child. But by the grace of God, I had people, that nurses and doctors was explaining to me like over and over that I'm not going to be able to care for her because she need medical care. So I'm not able to take her home, even if I want to.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so what happened after that? I mean, you must have been devastated. You're dealing
Shocked.
with shock, surprise, guilt, sadness, grief. Where did you go from there?
yeah,
You're just a young lady.
You know what, like now being in Canada and being part of these amazing organizations who support and survivors and support the young moms and children, I do understand how much alone and neglected I was back home. Even social services wasn't called. Nobody talked to me about postpartum depression. Nobody talked to me about grief and loss of this child because she did pass away 3 months later. And I decided to give her proper burial because I felt like I own her that because I couldn't give her anything in life. And I actually collect the money from my friends and we dug the hole in that like cold ground because and people, this is another very crazy analogy. People was getting ready to celebrate New Year and Christmas, so it was very festive. It was everybody was so pumped up, and I remember carrying this little casket in my hand, but it was the proper casket and proper like plot. I bought her in the cemetery, and I carried that casket in my arms, and for next 20 years I carry it in my body, mind, and soul.
Yeah, I bet. And I bet how hard, I'm sure, to see people celebrating and happy around you when you're like, do you not understand what I've been through? And you probably just felt invisible at times, right?
Yes, that's where the depression and anxiety and panic attacks came because this mind of mine keeps saying, like, you have no voice, you are invisible. And the craziest part, to that point, I kind of already surrendered to my abuse and sexual and like, and I kind of like was, okay, this is my path, this at this
This is
moment.
how your life will just
Yeah,
be.
exactly. But then like bringing the baby, that totally broke me. And I start using heavier drugs like heroin because I just want to numb my brain from saying to me, you killed her, this is your fault, and stuff like that. It was to medicate. I don't think I ever want to commit suicide, but that was a point of my life that I didn't want to leave either, you know, so I wouldn't
Sure.
kill myself
Very
per
dark.
se. But then, yeah, if I would die, I would be okay with that too, because I'm like, it is what it is. This is the life. But if I'm gonna be gone, I know nobody gonna look for me, nobody gonna miss me, and it's gonna not make a difference in this world if I'm not gonna be here.
You from little on, you didn't know anything different in life other than pain and abuse
Neglect,
and
yeah.
neglect, and it was traumatizing without you even being aware, because this was your world. So, but now you've had this little baby, and things have gone to a whole nother level with you internally. You're dealing with that guilt and that shame and all. Did you go into a period then of hardening yourself, or because you said you started to use even more drugs to kind of escape? Where did it go from there?
Well, for next 3 years, I pretty much don't remember anything. I become a street junkie and used.
So did you
heroin.
live on the streets?
I left my home when I was 16, but that time I wasn't homeless. I usually have a boyfriend, or I live with some of the gang, you know, like the people, you know, different. So I wasn't like on the street, but we call them street junkie anyway, because if you don't have a home per se,
Sure.
there is. But there was like for 3 years, I was gone. And then I realized people was dying around me or who went to jail. And I literally have this moment of awakening. I don't know if you ever felt this way, that like in one moment, you just like so aware of what's going on. And it's almost like all these 3 years caught up with me. But I do believe right now that I heard God speaking to me saying, you
Yes.
for more. And that's what literally like triggered me to think that I could be more. And it was very strange where it came from and what more, because all I knew that I don't want this anymore. You know, I didn't know what more meant. I just knew that I was so tired of this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I start looking for the opportunities, but there's no opportunity for people like me. There's no hopes, no dreams, no nothing. So when I met this lady, she was very wealthy, and she was honestly, she was kind to me. I think this is what really attracted me to her, because she brought me to her house and she offered me coffee and sweets. And I was so impressed because somebody actually like paying attention to me, you know, and being kind. And so it felt wonderful and safe. And she offered me a job. She said, no specific, just a job. And
how old are you at this point?
I was almost 18.
Okay.
So, and yeah, and without much thought, I was eager to escape. So I said yes to anything that she asked me to do. And her team went to work. At some point, like, because they cleaned me up, they washed me up, dressed me up, did them makeup, I felt something in my head was saying to me, what kind of job am I gonna be doing? But I still was on heroin. I still been using it, you know.
So she was grooming you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very interesting that light bulb, that if I would be more experienced with this and clear-minded, I would be triggered and thinking like, why they asking me to do stuff like that?
Right.
Why did they send me this? Why do they get me a traveling documents? Why would they do this? Why do they? But I didn't really think about that. They fed me, they took care of me, they were nice to me, and they were super nice to me. And that's why, literally, that's why I am advocating for different kind of human trafficking, because we see this movie with the force and violence. And yes, it can happen, but the grooming, it's so subtle and it's so different. And I want people to know red flags so they can watch for that as well. Because what happened is, I one day wake up, I don't know how to, I went through airport and I don't remember the customs or anything. I just woke up, hear a Muslim call to prayer, Allahu Akbar, ran out. So I was scared and confused because I woke up in a different country.
And where were you?
I was in Cairo, Egypt.
Wow. Wow. So when you say you woke up and you're in another country, like were you drugged and then traveled?
I was on drugs because I still was in drugs. I was using drugs, but the fact is somebody went through a report with me. I didn't have my passport. Somebody spoke for me because I don't recall anything. And that's what I want people to know too. If you see someone in a report, just think like why this girl doesn't speak for herself, why she's submitted, surrender, like, or something, not allowed to speak for herself, those kind of things.
Sure.
So yeah.
You were in such a vulnerable place too, that when somebody offers you kindness,
and desperate, right?
You're obviously going to respond to that, and they're feeding you. You don't know you're being groomed for this, obviously, at the point in time. And I think it's one of the reasons why the Bible refers to the devil as disguising himself in light. And there's a great deception that can take place if we're not awake and aware. And you were extraordinarily handicapped because of the drug use and everything else. And so you were a pretty easy target and pretty vulnerable at that point. So, all right, you wake up and go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, there's a lot of young boys and girls that are easy targets in this day and age. And I think a lot of people don't realize. And so I'm so excited to talk more at the end of this interview about what you are passionate about and the tools in which you're going to give us that we can utilize so that hopefully we can, do our part. Right.
I was going to mention too that especially young people who are looking for love end up looking for it in the wrong places if it's not provided for them. So this is just a word to all of us in the family setting to make certain that when our children become teenagers and they become vulnerable, that we give them unconditional love where they feel grounded, safe, and accepted. And they're not going to do everything right, and they're going to need discipline, but they need to feel loved. You really never had that because of your dysfunctional home. So it made you even more vulnerable. So you wake up in Cairo. What's the next thing that happens?
Well, actually, it was very interesting because there I went through the withdrawals from heroin. And lots of people don't quit drugs like that by themselves because body shut down and side effects, you can die. So I do believe that I just, by the grace of God, he had the purpose and plan for me there too, because I could die. Even like before heroin, I could die a million times over, but that time was especially very traumatic. So I was left alone. But when I felt better, I was actually be able to tour the city a little bit more. But and it's very interesting. There was 5 girls, all of us together. I was so grateful for this experience because I still don't understand what's going on. Like they feeding us in restaurant, and then we went to this beautiful city when everything was painted white, and I see this amazing like sunset on a Red Sea and
things you've never experienced before.
And like, oh, I have like goosebumps. So I'm like on top of this mountain and this like red and orange hues on the city and on this on the sea, and I'm so blown away by this beauty. It's so glorious, and I'm thinking like, thank you. Like that time I didn't know God, but I was like, thank you for this experience because it's mind-blowing. I never see anything so exotic and beautiful. And my heart like burst like with this, like, where am I? Like it's so amazing. And the next day, our hotel been raided by the police, and they arrest us all, implying that we've been trafficked. But we stuck to the script because we've been told what to say. And then like in a foreign country with foreign language, with no passport, they have all our documents and everything. I think that's first time I got scared. I'm like, okay, there's something wrong. And what happened is one of the guy was somebody saw him in a hotel, and that's why police came, because he was a trafficker. And but they arrest him and then let us go with another guy. So afterwards, the another guy brought us in the middle of nowhere with huge, and left us in a Bedouin tent with the two huge, terrifying armed Middle Eastern men.
Wow.
And that's where I knew that it's really bad.
Yeah.
And then they forced us to crawl under the barbed wire into Israel, and they sold us into brothel in Israel.
Wow.
You crawled into Israel?
Yep, I crawled.
Like, wow.
Yeah,
That's almost, I would think, unheard of. I mean, because it's so protected. We were in Israel not too long ago. Okay, so you were in Israel, and how long were you there?
almost 2 years.
Okay.
Now, you were in a brothel at that time?
Yes, I actually was bought by a family business, and I learned that it's very important what brothel you end up with, because most of the girls who came with me went missing or died, or they just disappeared.
Oh my.
Wow, Lena. Wow. Wow. Okay.
So for 2 years now, you're working in prostitution. What was happening on the inside of your mind and your heart and your emotions as you were going through those 2 years?
And were you always looking for a way to escape and a way out?
Well, it's a really good question, because although it was terrible situation, and probably your listeners thinking like, oh my gosh, what was happening? That's a good question. But for me, it was a great. You don't understand, guys, that I was clean, I was fed, I made money, nobody could rape me or beat me to death. So my broken mind thinking like, oh my goodness, this is opportunity. I can save money and start a new life. And another thing that was really amazing, that I actually had bodyguards that nobody could rape me and beat me to death.
Wow.
So I was protected.
Yeah.
But there's another part, when you were saying you went to Israel, that's where God actually met with me in
Really?
Israel.
Wow.
Through one of my bodyguards, and you're gonna be blown away, because this is just miraculous. One of my bodyguards shared the gospel with me.
Seriously?
And there's another story, because always people asking me like, what is the Christian doing in the brothel? I'm like, ministry. Literally. And you know what's ridiculous part? He didn't even think that it was ministry. He just couldn't find the job, because he was Russian Jew running away from persecution in Russia. And when they came to Israel, his wife got all the perks of them being a resident or the citizen, but because he's not, like, he's Jewish, but it's everything by the mother, but he couldn't find the job. And he pray, and they pray, and end up, and I was even thinking, what kind of wife gonna let her husband to work in the brothel with these girls? But he was amazing. For 2 years, he never cheated, he never even looked in any girls more than like, this is my kid. This is, he treated me like his kid. And it was so amazing, because he never looked down on me. He never judged me. And he was like you guys, like so joyful. And I'm thinking like, what are you smoking? You cannot be like literally. Like, I'm like, where's this joy? Like, I never met in my life man that positive, that joyful, that and I saw him dealing with the clients. I saw him dealing with the mess. I knew that I would like go and rage and anger, and he calmed me down. He's like, everything's gonna be okay. Like, I'm like, how can you be like so stable? I never met anyone so stable emotionally and physically and so present. And with this face, I'm like, what is this? And I think that's what drew me to him. I do believe Christ in him just like pull me in, and I want to know more. And
that's
I gotta talk to our Christian listeners for just a moment, and starting with you and me, Wendy. The more you smile, the more you offer love, the more you offer hope, the more you offer joy, the more you offer non-judgmentalism, the more you open yourself up, the easier it is for people to start to open up to the reality that there is a living Christ who lives in you. And this is what they want.
And they want more of it.
I
Yes.
just love the fact that you were being almost enticed by the Spirit of God in him to come to Jesus. So continue on with the story. What happened?
And real quick, I love how God connects all the dots.
Yeah.
Like he's in everything, right? Even when it looks bleak and like, where are you, God? There he is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, there's more. Honestly, like, and that's what blows me away, how amazing God is. And if you ever think that you are in a situation that God doesn't forgive or he's not able to forgive, honestly, just hear my story. My
It is
my
miraculous.
grandfather, like, yeah, it is miraculous. And it's such a huge confirmation for me how much God loves me, because that's where it is. I was in the brothel with this gentleman bringing me his kids' Bible, talking me about the stories. And I was so fascinated because like nobody ever told me Bible like this, but he literally talked to me like a kid, and it was so beautiful. But then was another part when my grandfather had a heart attack, and I remember my friend was talking about the wailing wall. He was talking about that
Wailing
you
wall.
can go and put your prayer into there, and God answered the prayer. And I kid you not, I want to go meet that God and ask him this favor. And I call everybody. Nobody was available, but my friend say, you know what? I'm gonna drive you there. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. People afraid to drive there that time because it was like, what, 20 years ago, because they have so many problems there. The buses was shot by the like on the road by the guns and all this stuff. It was so much mess. So nobody just willingly gonna go, oh, let's go and visit this city, wherever. So, but he came and he brought his little kid too. And I was so blown away that little kid know about God so much more than, I don't know, like I ever thought little human being can know. But he was proud of it too. She
Beautiful.
was talking about the Bible, like she was like little like theologian, no theology.
Yeah, little theologian.
Yeah, but it was so cool to hear because she's like was like something like 10 years old or something like that. So we went through Jerusalem and I saw how much she actually know about this place, and she told me what to do, where to go, and I was like so scared. And I just been pushed to the wall, and literally closer an inch to the wall, I knew that like, who am I to ask God for favor? I am a prostitute, drug addict, alcoholic. Like I like people like me don't deserve mercy. Really, like in front of that wall, like this sense of shame overcome me. And I knew that I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of this audience. But I put my hands on the wall, and it was such a amazing experience because like that time in Israel, like, I don't know, 60 degrees, it's sweating hot. And it was like, I was probably already dehydrated and stuff. But when I put my hands and I have this turmoil in my head, the wall was cool to the touch. And I was thinking like, that's impossible. How this stone can be cold if it's so hot outside? But when I start thinking about the wall, like I realized my thoughts was really, really calm. And I look around, I didn't know what to do. Everybody crying, praying in different languages. So I just said, God, I don't know if I'm worthy. I just wanted my grandfather would be safe, because I know if he dies, my grandma gonna die and all this stuff. And literally like the words start pouring from me. I do believe I encountered Holy Spirit that time, because it happened. It was like almost like an hour I was there. When I actually opened my eyes, I was like fully covered with tears. My body was shaking. I definitely have an experience that it was like extraordinary. And I knew that something happened. And another thing, like I had, oh my goodness, I have goosebumps. So I had peace in my mind. I had peace in my heart. I have like this tremendous gratitude to God that he actually show up. I
Praise
knew
God.
that everything's gonna be okay. So
Yes.
that was like my first like really amazing encounter with God.
I love that. I love that.
Wow,
He will,
powerful.
it is
Oh.
so powerful. And when we are ready, he will meet us wherever we are.
Yeah.
We don't have to be at the wailing wall. We can just be at our wailing in our kitchen. You know what I mean? And God will meet us where we are, where we're broken, and when we surrender. And that's what you did. And it's just so beautiful. So, you know, after that experience, I mean, you're married now. Let's kind of fast forward a little bit, because you started to receive God's grace and the healing and turn things around. First of all, how did you meet your husband, and why did you decide to wait so long before you told him about your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think in between those, it's around 5 years between that encounter and until I end up in Canada. And that's another story too. But I actually been trafficked to Canada as well. But here in Canada, I had an opportunity to escape. So I used it. I live in shelter and learned my English from level 0. And then I signed up for government credit school and finished my cosmetology course. So I
Good for
was
you.
in the time to achieve, because I want to be normal. And this beautiful country offered me the opportunity to live and to study. And that's what I did. And actually, I became a hairstylist.
Huh.
And then I decided to learn martial art and driving. So I got a
Wow.
belt in Taekwondo. So
Man.
I want to achieve, because I
Yeah.
assume I earn diplomas, medals, trophies, everything like normal people do.
Mhm.
Then I get like peace, worth, and value. I thought that's where you get that from,
Sure.
because I never had. And I assume that when you get into achieve mode, that's become that identity that I didn't have, because up to that, I don't know what I was, but I was.
A lot of people think that, Lena, and they haven't had a past story like yours. So there's a lot of people that find or think that they have found their identity in what they do.
Yeah, so
And
true.
so, yeah.
And only until like you try everything, you're gonna see that it's all empty, because I got everything and I had nothing. And it's very
Well, I got to say that again. I got everything and I had nothing. That is profound.
I still felt empty. I still was rude and obnoxious and angry. And then I met this beautiful boy. He was young and kind and fun, and literally he's like was smitten. And what interesting is that he treated me like a lady. And I'm thinking like, where do you see that? You know, but now I understand that the Christ in him actually make me fall in love with him. And it was interesting, because now I think that's how God see me. He already saw me as a lady.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. It took me like 15 years together when I quit the drugs. He already saw me. And that's how my husband saw me.
Beautiful.
Of course, it's not a like miraculous story. We still had 3 kids, postpartum depression. We have our traumas to deal. We have a mess, but we went through it together. So don't think you guys like, oh my goodness, like fall in love.
Got it all together now. Yeah.
Like, because can you imagine? I don't even know if Christ would be in our family, we would be together, because this guy was, first of all, like Christian, very stable compared to me. I just coming out from this mess. I know where I'm going, but the past still was tormenting me. I still have all these PTSDs. And then I become wife and a mother. Are you kidding me? People dreaming about this all life. I didn't even know that I'm gonna be alive. And now I have like this imposter syndrome. Who do you think you are? A wife and a mother. Then I didn't even know about devil who tormented me, like your baby gonna die just like a first one, and your husband gonna kick you out, and you're gonna die on the street from drugs, homeless in a foreign country.
All the lies.
Once again. So I was like hopeless, helpless, and nobody ever diagnosed me with postpartum. I didn't have church. I didn't have really, I have family and support because our family lived in US. So honestly, I was literally alone. And now I'm so grateful for those crazy like 4 years, because I know God gave me this opportunity to see and to break that deceiving mindset, because I thought if you have trophies and medals, you're gonna be good. If you get person who gonna love you, husband, clean home, food, when you have a healthy baby and healthy relationship, then you're gonna get your worth and value and peace. So now I had everything and I still have nothing. I was even more depressed, more anxious, because now I had no drugs, because I chose not to lie, not to use drugs, not to drink. I chose to be a wife and a mother for them, for these two people who I love above and beyond. And there was a moment, I kid you not, guys, I worshiped my husband because he was so good to me. But that time I didn't know I worshiped Christ in him, because Christ was good to me through this man who just decided, no matter what happened, I'm not gonna leave this crazy lady. I'm gonna be committed to the marriage.
But he also saw the Christ in you, because
the potential for sure.
But no, I mean, the Holy Spirit had already come into you at the Wailing Wall. You'd already had the experience. You were in that
I tried my
progression.
best. You know what?
Exactly.
I did all my best.
So
and then
with your traumas, I know that PTSD is a big thing. A lot of people deal with it, but you have some practical tools and steps for people to get through their traumas. And I think that that's something that someone listening might really need to hear today.
Absolutely. I would love to name a few. Number one, create support system and find the accountability partner. Guys, this is very important. Friends, family, church, have a weekly accountability calls where one person that you trust would ask questions and encourage you and pray for you and follow up. That's take from the enemy this weapon to say that you are alone, because you are not alone. There's people who gonna love you and support you and take care of you. You just have to make that first step to reach out.
That's good.
Second one, I would say faith in God. Know the truth about your identity.
Yes.
And that's where my mindset changed from I'm worthless, I'm abandoned, I'm broken, to I am significant and my life is valuable, and that I'm loved and I'm not alone. And it helped me to have grace and compassion for myself. So another one, create positive affirmations, because our words can either speak life or speak death.
That's right.
Our tongues can build us up or can tear us down. And you have to create positive self-talk and repeat those affirmations until you believe it's true, until you believe it's true. And it will take time. So practice and develop this habit. Another one really helped me, writing the book, but you don't have to write the book. Write the journal, write the letter, because you need to unload this burden. Because I do believe, like we said earlier, most of the victims doesn't have voice, because the shame usually stopping us from sharing. And if you write, it will help to process pain differently. And you actually can give that journal to someone else, like to someone that you trust, asking for help. And that's how you're gonna start the conversation.
That's good.
Lena, I'm guessing too that was it 12 years that it took you before you shared with your husband your whole story?
Yes.
And you wrote him a letter.
Tell you how that happened.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I'm guessing that opened up a door of freedom for you that accelerated your growth.
Absolutely. But you know what? In right before our wedding, actually, when he proposed to me, I wrote him 6 or 8 page letter. I remember, and it was so ridiculous because I saw him through the balcony glass and he was watching something like comedy. So he was laughing his heart out. And I was at the table. I made the decision to tell him my story. I wanted to tell him everything because I already chose not to lie to him and I wouldn't start our marriage with a lie. I want him to have a choice. I want him to read that and decide, you know what, I will marry you for who you are, or I walk away. And actually come to the understanding and surrender to the fact that I have to be okay with any of that choices, because actually I wouldn't be married me. You know what I mean? Like, because I thought I didn't deserve this.
Sure.
But how honorable of you
Yeah.
to say, you know what, he needs to know before I'm not going into this marriage with a
Mhm.
lie. I mean, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And so after you, because you wrote it in a letter.
Yes. And I came to him and it was crazy. Like I'm crying and he's laughing and it broke my heart because I thought our relationship was over. That's what I thought. But I still gave it to him and I told him, and he literally didn't even touch it. He said, your past, it's between you and God.
Wow.
I love you for who you are now.
Wow.
And he said, you have to go burn it, throw it out.
Good for him. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing man.
That's powerful. Wow.
12 years later,
Yeah.
3 kids later,
Okay.
businesses later, everything is later. I'm saying to him, would you like me to tell you my story or you want to read the book? Because the
So
book
you'd already
was,
read the book at this point?
the
Oh,
book
boy.
already was coming out.
Oh,
I told
my.
him probably when it went to my publisher and editor, so they had it for a year. So year before the book come out, he said, yes, I want you to tell me the story. And it was very interesting because we drove outside the city. There's a spot that he really liked, that he see all this like land and it was sunset. It was such a beautiful, like God made perfect place. He liked to go and think. And he was leaning on the fence and he was looking forward and I was standing there and I just laid it out on him. The most amazing part, like I didn't cry, I didn't had fear, I didn't have
No
anything.
more shame.
Yeah, it was no shame. It was so beautiful. And I just gave it to him. And then there was silence. So I was like, are you guys, you know, like, and I see him, like, he didn't even blink. I kid you not. It was so miraculous. So he turned around to me. I'm like, are you angry? Like, give me something. And he said 2 things. You've been healed. And the second one, he said, this book has a purpose.
Wow. Oh, I love this man.
This guy. What's,
I know.
He's
Yeah.
powerful.
It's
What's
like,
his name?
it's like, his name is Josh. And
Josh.
honestly, even now we're talking and I said, you know what? You saved my life. I don't know if you do understand that, that because you didn't leave, you actually saved my life. And now you can reap the benefits. Now, 15 years later, therapies later, counseling later, everything later. And guys, if you're listening and you're thinking like, I want to be there, yes, there's gonna be lots of time, lots of people who gonna support you and help you, but there is hope. Because honestly, like only probably last fall, like recently, and I'm like over 40 years old, I actually have so much peace in my body, mind, and soul.
Praise
I know
God.
this is my purpose, my passion, and I feel like myself again. I literally, I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I know this past has a reason, and I feel like just so blessed and honored to be wife and a mother. And I feel so grateful that I have this man by my side, to have my children. It's not perfect. It's still not perfect. But you know what? I do believe I'm healed, and it's 100% God. There's like nothing I can take this, because I could heal my body. I could heal my relationship. I could heal my bad behavior through counseling and therapy. but this peace, this worth, value, identity, like love, joy, everything that money cannot buy and you cannot do, it's just from Jesus. This is like number one. It's like from all of this stuff that you ever like heard me saying today, Jesus is number one, and the rest of it, he will guide your steps, direct your steps. He gonna bring you where you're supposed to be.
Amen. Wow.
Amen.
Put a cherry on top of that one.
Yeah.
That was like amazing,
Perfect.
Lena. I mean, you have just overcome so much, and just to hear you and just to see your passion and to hear your passion is so contagious. And so do not listen to that voice that kind of bubbles up sometimes that isn't the voice of God, because you do have a powerful journey ahead, and God is using you to do great things and to speak life into people that may be feeling that very same place that you felt, alone, ashamed, all the things, and you're giving them hope. So praise God. Thank you for being courageous. And you are an advocate, a social justice advocate. You're also, wanting people to make sure that they understand about trafficking. And you shared a few glimpses of what to look for if people are being groomed, but also you have something additional for the listeners. And I'm going to put that in the show notes because it's a long link, but it's a PDF, it's a guidebook. And is it to help people through social media and understand how not to get lured in by social media? Is that what that is?
Absolutely. It's actually Safety Online, and it's by an amazing organization. It's Fight for Freedom. It's Christian nonprofit, and they provide survivor care, therapy, counseling, and housing support, and life skills building, as well as raising awareness on human trafficking through community education program. And they love on people with Jesus hands and feet.
That's so good.
I love it.
That's so good.
That I'm so privileged and honored to partner up with them. So on their website, they have so much information that you can look for. And and they have a phone number that you can connect and ask them if you have any questions.
That's fantastic. We'll put it in the show notes as well, and we will definitely put your website in the show notes. But if you're listening, Lena's website is Love&B, as in the letter B, loved.com. So it's Love&BLoved.com. So make sure you go there, pay her a visit, get her book Miraculous, and support her in sharing her story, because her story does matter. You matter, Lena. We love you and we thank you, and we are honored to have this time with you.
So
thank
grateful.
you for being on your biggest breakthrough.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
God bless.
Blessings.